Welcome to the Forger Podcast, where I talk with cottage food entrepreneurs about their strategies for running a food business from home. I'm David Crable, and today I'm talking with Payshee Felt and Steve Bivans. They live in St. Paul, Minnesota, and sell kettle corn and flavored popcorn with their business, Payshee's Popcorn. In this episode, you will hear some pretty amazing stories, like when their popcorn machine died at the worst possible time, or when they spent $5,000 on a truck that they couldn't even use. They started this business back in 2018 in hopes of replacing Payshee's corporate job, and after 2 years of selling under the cottage food law, they now have invested in a large kettle corn machine and make their popcorn live at events. From Steve's years of experience as a farmer's market manager to amassing tons of research about their industry, this couple knows just about everything there is to know about making and selling popcorn. They share a ton of insights along the way, and even if you don't want to sell popcorn, I think you'll learn a lot from them. So with that, let's jump right into this episode. Welcome to the show, guys. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
So I usually start by asking my podcast guests to tell how they got started on their journey, but this time I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to jump into the middle of your story. Can you tell me about the time when your popcorn maker died?
We had a big event for Cinco de Mayo. When was that? 2018?
2019.
So we were still doing cottage food at the time. So we're pre-bagging the popcorn, and we planned to make like 200 bags or something for the event. So I started that morning popping, and we had just a countertop popcorn machine. It was like a 16 ounce or something. So I think Payshee went to the store to get more coconut oil. And so I just started with what we had, and I probably did close to 50 bags by the time she got back. And then she took over on the popcorn machine like she normally did, and she put in a batch, and it spun and spun and spun and spun, and it didn't pop. So the heating element had gone out in it.
And mind you, it's the middle of a day on like a Friday afternoon, and before a big, holiday weekend in our neighborhood. And we had no idea where we were going to try and get a new popper. And so we furiously get online thinking maybe we can go rent a tabletop unit. There was just no way that was going to happen. And so we looked at each other, swore a lot, stomped around the house. Yeah. And then I was like, I'm just going to do it on the stove.
Yeah.
We're just going to do it on the stove.
I just grabbed our whirly pop.
A genius instrument.
And out of the cabinet, because we hadn't used it in forever, because we had this big countertop unit. And I just dropped it on the stove, and I said, start popping. I was like, Payshee started popping in the whirly pop, basically a bag at a time. And our goal was 200 bags, and we were only at 50.
So by the end of it, David, we were, for certain, I was covered head to toe pretty much in coconut oil from the spitting of the oil off the top of the whirly pop. And Momo, our friend, did pitch hit a little bit. She kind of went in and popped maybe like 15, 20 bags worth. But we made it happen. We did work into the evening to get it finished. We did not pop quite 200 bags. I think we did just shy of that.
It was about 150 or so.
Yeah, because the machine actually, we pretty much broke it. The whirly pop, the turning element, the screw on the top, it's made out of plastic. Gear was made out of plastic, and it kind of melted during that onslaught. It's not meant for commercial use. But we made it happen. And the next day we showed up at the event, and we were prepared, and we did not sell out completely, but we sold almost all of it. And it turned out to be a success.
Yeah, I mean, that's a crazy story. But Steve, I read something you wrote, and you said, we will always look back to that day, our worst day, as our best day. Can you elaborate on that?
We realized that we didn't have to do it just one way. It was a sort of a mind-expanding moment where it taught us that we really can do something, even though in the first moment when we realized the machine was broken, our heart sunk into our shoes. But we quickly were elated again by the fact that we had a second option. And you know what? Even if we wouldn't have had the whirly pop there, I was almost going to say whirly gig, David, because we call it that by accident all the time, but we would have figured out another way to do it. Had I needed to bring out a kettle and with just a manual lid on it, I would have done it that way. So I guess we just realized, we're going to do this, and no matter what, we're going to go in, we're going to finish this, we're going to meet our obligation. And regardless of what stands in front of us, we're not going to stop. So that was why it was our best day.
And, we bought new new element, new pot for the tabletop unit, which we kept using, which now is in the garage, and we haven't let go of it yet. It's back up, and we got a brand new whirly pot, which sits on top of the fridge at all times. And we still use it. We still use it. If like a customer just wants a couple of bags of popcorn, we don't fire up the huge kettle just to do that. But we can do that on a stove in no time at all and still get the job done. So we still use it.
So can you take me back to the beginning of this journey? I think it was 2018 when you got started. How did this whole thing get going?
Well, it actually started in 2017, if we want to be super specific. We didn't really start selling our popcorn until 2018. Steve was on a social media site called Anchor, and he had come across something called 30 Things to Do Before You Die. And one of the things was, what do you actually want to do for a living? I work in the financial services industry, and, it pays the bills, but it doesn't really energize me. And so I started thinking about what I would really like to do to make a living. And I thought, gosh, I think I want to have a popcorn company. And, the first time I brought it up, Steve was like, really, why? It just seems kind of random. Where did that come from? Because we'd never discussed it before this, ever. And I started to tell him why I liked making popcorn for people. It's associated with only positive memories. And one of the things that I really realized when I was doing this questionnaire was I'd like to do something that makes people happy, other people, because that makes me happy, right? So it's like a win-win. And when I think back through my life, I like working with food. So that's a big deal. I also like eating food. Don't get me wrong, that's a big deal too. But I think about positive times in my life. I think about holidays. I think about festivals. I think about, school carnivals. I think about movies, going to the theater as a kid. I think about it right now. It's kind of giving me chills. And it was always at like Halloween or Christmas or Thanksgiving, really fun times. And going, further into the future, when my kids were little, I would work at their school carnivals, and I would always run the popcorn machine. And there was always a line. People always would queue up for popcorn, and they're always happy when you handed it to them. No one's ever mad at you, David, when you hand them a bag of popcorn. They say thank you. They hand you their money. They walk away happy. And the only time you really see them again is when they come by to say, oh my God, I love your popcorn, or hey, can I buy more? And I'm like, I think I'd really like to do this for a living because I don't see a downside here. So we talked about it. I brought it up to some friends, and a friend of mine named Jessie. And I told her about this idea of potentially starting a little popcorn company. And she said, Patience, just do it. Why are you even stopping thinking about this? You have a great idea. And that started the ball rolling. So that was all well before 2018. The fall of 2017, right around Halloween, we started a GoFundMe campaign. And I think we made just under $2,000. We bought the Carnival King popcorn machine and some other supplies, a little bit of popcorn, and we just started.
This gets into how we got into cottage food, because the original idea was she wanted a popcorn cart.
Yes.
I was like, well, that'd be awesome. So we started looking into that, and then we realized our car because it's a hybrid, you couldn't put a towing package on it. And so we looked at different vehicles, and then we're like, what about we put it on the back of a golf cart? And then we realized St. Paul wouldn't. I'm really condensing the story, but yes. St. Paul, we couldn't do a golf cart on the street. And so then we were looking at other stuff, and then we found the Polaris Gems, which are the electric, neighborhood vehicles. And so we're like, what about one of these? They're legal on the streets. And so then we found one. It's has like a flatbed on the back of it.
It's like a little truck.
Yeah, it's like a little flatbed truck that Polaris makes. And the Minnesota Vikings had two of them for sale. We ended up buying both of them And then we were okay, we'll build the thing on the back of the truck, right? And it'll be kind of like an open food truck deal. Well, the Department of Ag didn't really like that plan because it didn't fit, it doesn't fit in their little, bureaucratic boxes so they can tick them off. And so we were kind of stuck, and we were coming right up to the opening of the farmers markets, season. And so then we this was another one of those moments where we were like,
we were ready to give up.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean, we were like, how are we going to do this? And then, at the time I was the manager of our neighborhood farmers market, which is another part of the story, but I should have thought of cottage food because we had several cottage food vendors at the market already. And I knew all about it. But my boss, she was like, why don't you just do it as cottage food? And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Right.
Well, because David, we originally were going to try and toss each specific bag for each client, each customer special. So if you would walk up to the popcorn cart, this is the initial dream. You could say, hey, Payshee, I want you to make me a easy cheesy au gratin, and I want a large size or whatever. And I would toss it for you right there, freshly made popcorn, homemade seasonings, tossed fresh for you, put in a bag, and I hand it to you. And that's what the Department of Agriculture was like, your plan here isn't going to work. And literally it was like a month and a half right before the farmers market opened. At the same time, my dad, who was going to help us build this, had a stroke. And so all of these things, and he's okay now, but all of these things happened at the same time. We were like, oh my God, maybe the universe is telling us it's just never going to work. And, I tend to go a little dark and evil at these times. Steve's like, all right, we can't give up. And his boss, Molly, who's also a friend of ours, did say to him and to me, she's like, you really should just try and do this somehow. Cottage foods, maybe you can prepackage it and bring it in bags and just not pop it live. And maybe you just work on that for a year and you can do it in the future different. And so we got off the phone with her. We kind of sat in our room here and looked at each other and got all sad and depressed again. And then we started thinking about, you know what? Maybe we can do it. And this was the spring of 2018. And we did do it. We had to go buy new bags. And David, we had to figure out how we were going to put together a new paradigm again. Yeah. And thankfully, the Department of Agriculture did us a favor, because had they actually approved the method we were going to originally pop our popcorn in, it would have been epic fail, because there would have been no way we could actually serve people in any kind of decent time frame or even keep it clean. And we were noobs, we had no idea.
Yeah, I mean the countertop model, which the one that failed the next year in the kitchen, was what we were going to put on the back of the cart. And that was one of the problems. It wasn't NSF and whatever, but it was a huge favor in the end, because that machine would have never kept up with demand an event. And we realized that only by doing cottage food, because as we were popping, I was actually keeping time. I was like, how much time are we spending it? How many bags did we produce? And I'm not really a numbers guy.
No, but he's a total process engineer. And honestly, I'm so thankful that he's kept all this information, because I hate that.
By the end of the first season, I knew exactly how many bags we could produce in an hour and all that. And that's in the kitchen with a controlled environment and not people lined up waiting for the bags. And I'm like, we would never be able to do this on this machine. So then we knew we needed.
When do we think the paradigm?
A different machine. And the only logical conclusion was a large kettle corn machine, like you see at huge events.
Right. But we didn't really go there right away.
No, we couldn't really afford it that second year. So we kept doing cottage food through 2019. With the idea that eventually we were going to get the kettle corn machine and do it live, but that would be a whole nother license and not cottage food,
as well as giant expense.
Right.
So for 2018, what we did is every Saturday, and we really did every Saturday that year at our local farmers market, which was luckily only 2 blocks from our house, we would pop the corn the night before on a Friday. And we would bag it all up. And usually we made anywhere from 50 to 75 bags on average. We'd bring them to the market. And sometimes we would sell a lot of them or most of them. Sometimes we didn't sell as much. And then whatever we wouldn't sell, Steve would go to the local brewery on Saturday nights while I took a rest here at home. He would go out and have a few beers with people and try and sell the rest. And what ended up happening through that process, David, was we got a good name out there in our neighborhood because we had dual exposure, not only at the brewery, but also at this lovely little nexus of the farmers market where many people would gather who otherwise we would not have met. And during that time, we also, and again, this was Steve's brainchild, so total and complete kudos to him for thinking about this because it was genius. He put together a sign-up sheet for an email list.
Oh, yeah.
And we created a frequent flyer card, which we called our Viper card, the very important popcorn eaters registry. That's what the acronym stands for. If you buy 10 bags, you get one free. And we still do that today. Mm-hmm. And it was very popular with people. And they signed up and we got to capture their email addresses. And through that, we were able to cultivate a holiday popcorn list. And we would email out to people when we were going to do other events and when we were going to do our holiday popcorn, which is our caramel corn and our chocolate covered caramel pretzel corn.
So with this email list, is the incentive for them joining just so they can get the buy 10 and get one free? Do they have to join the email list to get that deal?
They do. It's the only way to get that deal. The thing that built it the fastest that first year in 2018 was the incentive to get the caramel corn at Christmas time in the holidays, because her caramel corn is off the charts.
It's pretty epic, dude. Seriously.
It's the best on the planet. I'm just going to say it. And I forget how good it is until we make it every year. And then I'm like, oh my God, get this stuff away from me. You cannot stop eating it. And so what we did was towards the end of the farmers market season, we made some here at the house and we took some samples
and gave them away
for free samples. And the first time or two, I was like, they were like, can we buy some now? I was like, nope. I was like, you can't even order it yet. I said, the only way you're going to even get a chance to order it is to sign up on the email list. That was the bulk of our list, was probably that first year, really, people that wanted the caramel corn after they tasted it.
So let's say, someone's convinced, okay, I'm going to start in my home kitchen. I'm going to use my cottage food law. What are their options for actually getting started in terms of equipment?
I mean, really, you need bags to put your popcorn in. You need some kind of delivery device. We purchased bags on a couple of different sites. I think initially we bought bakery bags on Webster On Store.
Yeah, we've moved away from those.
Right. I mean, for a while we were just using straight up relock bags too, like Ziploc kind of bags with a little sticker on the front. And you need some kind of device to make your popcorn, like the Whirly Pop or a countertop unit. A Whirly Pop is it's under $40, even on Amazon, to start with. And then, of course, you need your ingredients. We decided to go all organic for our footprint and fully gluten-free. So those are two things that we wanted to make sure that we maintain throughout all of our business practices. And we started that way and we are still that way. So if somebody didn't want to adhere to those two rules, they could certainly find cheaper popcorn elsewhere, like at Costco or
definitely.
Online. So get your materials, figure out what kind of oils you want to use. We use organic coconut oil, which is very expensive. A lot of people use different kinds of oils. They just need to figure out and do a little bit of research on what they want to deliver to the public.
I would say that, somewhat it depends on what flavors of popcorn they're planning to do. Initially, we didn't do kettle corn, and that wasn't really a thing we were planning to do. We had a butter flavor, which we did with organic ghee. We call it the classic, and then we've got 2 or 3 cheese flavors, and then we came up with some other ones too. And all those were kind of like dry seasonings. We would pop the popcorn, and then we would use a spray gun with different oils, like sometimes sunflower oil or avocado oil or olive oil. And we'd spray that on the popcorn to help adhere the dry seasonings. So that was our process. So you need, depends on what you're going to do. Now, if you're going to do kettle corn, it's pretty
inexpensive.
Yeah, but it's next to impossible to do as a cottage food, because a Whirly Pop, you can make kettle corn in it, but
it'll get ruined pretty quick.
You can make like 2 batches and then you got to clean it out and let it cool down a little bit. So to make any volume on it that way would be almost impossible. We didn't really start doing the kettle corn until last fall. But I mean, you can do it with smaller kettles. You know, we did on top of a turkey burner with a kettle that's like, I don't know how many quarts it is, probably like 40, 50 quarts or something. But it's not optimal. So we quickly went and said, all right, we're just going to spring the money for, you know, the big kettle corn machine, and we could still pop plain popcorn in it. So we can do that and toss it with cheese and all that kind of stuff.
Right. But if you were to start, let's just say, with a little whirly pop, and you reinvest, you know, some profit into a tabletop model, I mean, for a few $100s, and I think now they're probably right under $400. You know, if you invest some of your profit into buying one, you could scale it up fairly quickly, maybe within a few months if you stuck with it.
So you started with the whirly pop, and then you quickly moved to a countertop model, and that's like $400. What comes next after that?
Really, I mean, on sites like K-Tom, or I think we got it from K-Tom, but they have, if you look for, it's like a caramel kettle. And the kettle is probably, I want to say it's like 40, 50 quarts or something. It's pretty good size. And they're about $250. And I actually said, I think it'll fit on the turkey fryer. So I mean, it actually did. So we had, you know, one of those burners for a turkey fryer. Those you can get for under $100. We tried it out on there. It actually worked. We made kettle corn on there. It wasn't optimum because, you know, the pot's kind of slipping around. And
it wasn't great from a process standpoint because you can't eliminate the unpopped kernels because we didn't have a sifting table. So for us, going to the big kettle corn rig was the best step. But like he said, you could potentially go to a mid-size.
You would need something to dump it into that had like sifting holes so you could eliminate, you know, the unpopped kernels and stuff. Really, the next is a kettle corn machine. Like, you know, there are some out there that are only like 80 quart, and they're a little cheaper.
Maybe $1,000 cheaper for the rig.
It's more than that. It's probably more like around $3,000, and you could get an 80 quart kettle corn popper. We decided we were going to make the leap. At that point, we just went to the 160 quart kettle corn machine, and with this big sifting table, and that's, you know, that's in the range of like 5,000 or so.
And let's be clear, we did not have that money to spend like on hand. So I dipped into my 401k and took a loan to do that. So this was a significant investment for us, and we were like, okay, this is time for us to go big or stay home.
I did see, Steve, you wrote that you were growing tired of popping in the kitchen and pre-bagging everything, and that this business had become a bit of a drudge. What was it like at that time of your business?
You know, like Payshee said at the beginning, why she wanted to do popcorn. It was about, you know, it was really about that experience of popping popcorn and handing fresh popcorn to people.
And that's really energizing.
Right. It's very energizing. Whereas, you know, doing it in the kitchen, you know, we get to look at each other for 2 or 3 hours.
And we play disco music.
That helps. But, it, you know, after a while, you get the feeling that you're working in a factory kind. I mean, it's a very tiny factory in our kitchen.
Also, popcorn expands when you pop it. So you start off with sort of a small container of popcorn,
right.
But once you pop it and you have all these bags made, half of a room is filled. It literally explodes.
With plastic bins filled
with bags of popcorn. Yeah. And it smells amazing. I mean, you walk in the house and it smells fabulous, but you know, your house quickly becomes overrun with your product.
So as you were scaling your business, where were you learning? Were there any good resources that you found to learn about how to turn this into a business?
2 words: Greg Sweet.
Yeah.
The kettle corn maestro on the mountain. Steve researched that man's videos, and boy, did we learn a lot from that. And Steve, I'm gonna let you talk about Greg Sweet's videos.
If you want to learn about, especially scaling up the popcorn business or kettle corn business, you just go to YouTube and type in kettle corn, and what will come up is Greg Sweet's videos. And Greg Sweet passed Parkinson's, I think.
Yeah, a few years back.
About 3 or 4 years ago.
And the world is a sadder place.
Yeah, he was only in his 40s, I think, when he died. But his family still makes and sells kettle corn equipment. But just an amazing resource. His videos alone.
Well, they're entertaining, number one.
Yeah, because this is a guy who absolutely loved making popcorn. I mean, like screaming out loud making popcorn. He just loved it. And it's infectious. So just watching his videos, sometimes when I'm like kind of down, I'll watch his videos and like, making popcorn is pretty awesome. He's great. Also, on the business part of food vending in general is learnhotdogs.com. It's Ben Wilson.
Yes.
His website alone is tons of stuff on food vending as a business, and basically get almost all of it for free. I actually wrote another article for him on how to do popcorn as cottage food.
So really we dove in to, and when I say we, I mean Steve. He's really the genius behind all the research. He dove in to really research the industry, where for me it started off as a bit of like this romantic dream, right, with this image of a Cretors wagon on a sunny day handing happy people lovely, intoxicatingly delicious smelling popcorn. And then he actually started to really help make it a reality. This is a true team effort, and without him diving in to do all of that, we wouldn't be where we are. But looking at all the resources he just mentioned,
if you get into kettle corn, you will end up with Greg Sweet, because everyone doing it knows who he is.
Yeah, he's the godfather. I mean, he's the guy who made it.
Yeah, and I did see that you wrote that article on Learn Hot Dogs, and it's a great article. I will link to that in the show notes. You were doing the cottage food thing for 2 years, I think, before you stepped up with into the kind of commercial side of things, producing popcorn live at events. But you said that you guys were burning out by the end of the first season because you're making so much popcorn at home. So what did you do to kind of improve things in the second season, even though you hadn't changed your equipment?
So, I have a full-time job. I work anywhere from 50, sometimes 60 hours a week. In 2018, I went to an office 5 days a week. So that was exhausting. And then Saturday morning, Friday night, we're popping until 9, 10 o'clock. And then we're up at 5 a.m. getting ready to go to the farmer's market. And we do that until noon. And again, it's hot. It's on asphalt. And, it's exhausting. And so that's why I got burned out.
And
so
we were doing it every week.
Every single week. Yeah. Because we were like, we're just going to go in. We went right in, and we dove right in, which was extremely important for that first season. But the second season, we backed off, and I only went twice a month to the farmer's market instead of every single week.
So if you were only doing 2 markets per month instead of about 4, does that mean that your profits got cut in half in your second season?
No,
good question.
I think it was important for us to do that the first year.
Yes.
Because we weren't established. But by the end of the first season, Payshee's popcorn was a very popular attraction at the West Side Farmers Market. And people knew us. We had a following already. And so I thought, going into the second one, I was like, well, she was like, I really don't want to go every week. And I was like, I don't think we should either. And I said, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I said, what I think will happen, this was my guess beforehand, was that it will create an amount of scarcity on those weeks when we're not there. And I said, I think we'll sell more each time, maybe not double, but more, because one, they already, a lot of them already knew it was good. They knew what they liked. And by not being there every week, then they couldn't just say, well, I don't know, you get it this Saturday because they'll be here next Saturday anyway, right? And so they'll load up. And that's what happened. I mean, we didn't double sales each time, but I would say we probably went up by 50%.
We made more money in 2019 than we did in 2018.
Yeah, we did. It certainly, the sales went up each time we were there. And
we increased our price.
We increased the price of one bag to $6 from $5. And then I was like, let's give them a 2 for $10. And the 2 for $10,
genius,
absolutely works.
That was a great move because we sold more product And we actually made more money because of it, because they would buy 2 bags usually instead of 1.
Yeah, especially the return customers, because they already knew it was good. They already loved it. And they're like, oh, I can get 2 for 10. To jump ahead, we actually, with the kettle corn, we went with a small and a large bag with basically the same kind of deal. But then by the end of the season, I was like, let's go back to just small bags. It was a gallon size, $6, 2 for 10. And we were there last week, and sales were better.
Mm-hmm. People like that paradigm
because they didn't have to commit $10 for one flavor.
On the topic of pricing, you charged $5 and then $6 for one bag, but you're using all organic ingredients, as you've said. Organic corn, organic coconut oil, which is expensive. If you were using non-organic ingredients, how much do you think you would be able to charge for the popcorn?
Yeah, it's hard to say because we don't.
I don't know that I would ever sell it for less than $4 a bag.
No, probably not.
And I will say this about pricing. Again, I'm in the financial services industry, and we're not wealthy by any stretch. We're very much middle American income. But don't give away your product is my big message. Yeah. You are putting all of this time and effort into it. So even if someone using non-organic products is looking at trying to start off, don't sell yourself short. That would be a big message that I would give out. That's why I said, gosh, I would never start less than $4 a bag in any market, really.
Yeah.
Because you have to put all the time and energy into it. You have to move your equipment back and forth. And again, it's your business. It's not just something, unless you really are doing it for fun, in which case, just give it away.
Well, even still, I still don't, look, we give away lots of popcorn.
We really do.
Because nothing sells popcorn like popcorn. For instance, we were just at the Irish Fair in Minnesota. Huge event. In the past, they used to have something like 100,000 people. This year, they had like 15,000. But it was still a big event. If you price yourself too low, then you just start a race to the bottom for everybody else. People make the mistake. A lot of businesses make the mistake of trying to be the cheapest. When we started out, I was like, I do not want to be the cheapest. I wanted to be the best popcorn that we can make within reason, right? I'm sure we could probably source some of these ingredients from, Zanzibar or somewhere and pay 3 times as much. But would it make it 3 times better? Not necessarily. So we still try to find the best deal on coconut oil, which is actually Costco, by the way, and nobody beats it. I've looked all over the planet for the best price on organic coconut oil. But yeah, it's just a mistake to sell yourself short.
Again, the big takeaway is this is your business. And if you eventually want to make it into something else, trying to do giant jumps in price later on as you do grow your business to help fund maybe your transition to a bigger business model is very shocking to your clientele
right.
and your customer base. So you want to start off at a reasonable price point where you're making enough and they're getting a product they can afford, and then doing small increases as you build your model is probably the best way to do it. And again, it can be event specific. Like when we go to a big festival, it's always more expensive than it is like at a farmer's market because there's more fees involved for us.
Yeah, for instance, at Irish Fair, there's a big fee to get in as a vendor, and then there's a percentage on the backside that they want off the top. My advice, really, you starting out, find your local farmer's market, and when I mean local, I mean the smallest neighborhood one where the fees are cheap. We could go like the downtown market in St. Paul, but their fees are high. You probably make that back, I'm sure. But
we're talking about the difference of maybe 5 times more expensive than our local market in our neighborhood,
right,
for the year.
And when we say, I want to say, when we say price, a $6 bag for us, that's now a full gallon of popcorn. And so the price also depends on how big your bag is, right? Very few people balk at the price. There are people that occasionally do, but they don't really want popcorn to start with.
Like not even 1% of our customer base has ever even made a comment about price.
1%.
It's very rare.
1%, maybe.
In terms of the bags, you said earlier that you were using Ziploc bags inside of a paper bag to package your popcorn. And I was wondering, is that actually cheaper than just buying the big tube kettle corn bags that you see at the fairs?
No, definitely not. No,
it's much more expensive.
It was definitely more expensive. We wanted a certain look. It was really about the packaging, and we wanted a kind of classic look to it. So
we wanted to look like a bakery treat with our sticker and our branding on it,
right?
That people would remember. Because again, our real thought here was that we were going to try and make a splash and make people remember us,
right? And so we literally, the first week we did it, we didn't have the Ziploc inside of it.
Very bad idea. Don't do what we did.
Don't do that. And here's why: because it doesn't keep as well that way, especially when you're popping it ahead of time. Now, if you were literally dumping it in the bag and they're going to eat it right then, fine. It's just like in a movie theater. But not if they're going to take it home, or if you're going to pop it. If you're doing cottage food, you got to pre-bag it. There was some of them, it's especially the classic, and that had a lot to do with the ghee or the butter we were using it the first time. Some of it was a little chewy. Nobody wants chewy popcorn unless it's caramel.
It's very susceptible to humidity, and so you need to encapsulate it in plastic. And we wanted to have a very green footprint. We have this little cute electric truck.
Right.
We use organic ingredients. We wanted to use compostable bags, but there just aren't any, or at least at the time, there weren't any available for what we needed. And so we were going to start off with just this wax paper bakery bag, and that was fail. So the next week we decided to use Relox inside of the bakery bag. And a Relox is just an industry term for a Ziploc bag.
I think the second week we actually bought the knockoff Ziploc bags from wherever, the grocery store or somewhere. But then we quickly found some through another supplier that were way cheaper.
But you have to buy them in bulk.
Yeah, you said, we bought 1,000 or more of them. It would be cheaper to do the tube, kettle corn bags. And really the best deal on those is a place called polybagllc.com. And they have the best deal on them. Their website is from 1997. It's basically non-functional. You can't do anything there except for find their phone number and then call them, which they're awesome people, very helpful, and they get them out to you, man. They don't mess around. If you make an order, it's going to be to you probably in the same week. That's certainly a way to do it. Then you're looking at a cost of between 7 and 10 cents a bag. So they're pretty cheap. That's just a plain bag with no label. You can get the ones that have the pre-kettle corn thing on them, but we wanted our own branding. So we just get them plain, and we have stickers printed from Print Runner, I think, that I designed, and we get them printed, and we just slap a sticker on them once we fill them. The bag and sticker together, it's under 20 cents, which is not, you can do it cheaper, but we wanted labels on our bags so that people got to know the brand and the flavor, knew what flavor they had, and fell in love with the flavor and knew the name of the flavor. And we spent a lot of time on the names, taglines, and stuff.
Yeah, I did want to ask about the flavor names and just flavors in general. You talked a little bit about what flavors you started with. If somebody was trying to start a cottage food popcorn business, are there flavors you think that they need to focus on first? And kind of side tangent to that is, how did you actually come up with the names for your flavors?
When I first started thinking about the popcorn business and what I wanted to do, I initially began thinking about cheese popcorn, because it's awesome, right? Who doesn't like cheese popcorn? So I thought, okay, what kind of flavors can I make? And I thought about the flavors I like. So I came up with a taco cheese flavor, because I like taco chip flavors, like the taco Dorito flavor or something similar to that from the 70s, right? Again, because we're old, David. And then I thought just a regular kind of cheese flavor, maybe a little smoky flavor in it. And as I was thinking about the recipes to put these flavors together, I think about food that I make at home. And how do I translate my own turkey taco recipe into a flavor for popcorn? And you're like, turkey tacos and popcorn? Come on, lady, what the heck? But seriously, that was the evolution of that process. And the same was true with the what we call our easy cheesy au gratin. It's my cheesy potato flavorings translated into the powdered ingredients that create our popcorn with that same name. So what I did is I tried to incorporate some of the recipe names that I make on an everyday basis into the popcorn flavors. And that's where they came from. The one difference I would say is Herby Flurby, which kind of came to me in a dream. How dumb does that sound? But that's actually what happened. That's the nutritional yeast based flavor. And it was like, some people call that hippie dust. Some people call it nooch. Some people call it like brewer's yeast. Either way you look at it, it's a little bit weird. It's not a normal thing that you might see on popcorn that you'd get at a movie theater, but it's delicious. And I was like, hippie dust. Okay, I need to come up with a name that's like similar to that. I was like, herbs and Herby Flurby, because Flurby sounds kind of goofy and hippie and fun. And so that's how that one came up. And, that's a similar process to how we name the rest of our products. Like we have our chocolate covered caramel pretzel corn that we make at Christmas time. We had a heck of a time trying to figure out what to call that. Like at first we were like, oh, let's call it Christmas crack. Well, if you look on the internet, there's a billion things called Christmas crack that have nothing to do with popcorn. And we wanted to set ourselves apart. So we labored, I don't know, maybe for hours on one. Yeah. In the middle of summer, right. Trying to think of a Christmas popcorn name for that coming year. And we came up with December Decadence because we're like, well, we don't want it to be holiday specific. So we came up with that, but we take time to think about it. Steve came up with the name for our kettle corn, just our regular kettle corn with sugar, salt, oil, and popcorn. And he came up with Old Fangled kettle corn. It's old fangled. So instead of newfangled something, it's old fangled kettle corn, which is sort of like it's old timey, but it's a new spin on it because it's organic. We definitely put a lot of time into it because we have found that customers, they remember the names. They become fans of certain brand names that we have. And that's a big deal because that means they remember us and our product and they come back for more.
Right.
And that's what we want.
My advice is to stand out. Right. I mean, it's like Seth Godin calls a purple cow, right? I mean, be a purple cow, not a brown cow. There's plenty of brown cows out there. So if you stand out, people are more likely to remember you. And we try to do that in just about everything we do, right? I mean, from how we make the popcorn, the ingredients themselves and the process, all the way down to the bag and how we make it live now. I mean, at Irish Fair, I started every time she cranked up that kettle, man, I started yelling out kettle corn time, and we then the crew would start screaming. By the end of the weekend, the vendors next to us were screaming after I said it. And I was like, what am I going to say? And they'd start, so have fun with it is a big one because I'm like, if it ain't fun, why do it?
Yeah, it's popcorn, so it should be fun.
I tell people it better be fun for the customer. It ain't got to be fun for you necessarily all the time, but it should be fun, especially doing popcorn. It should be fun for the customer.
It's a fun food. You don't have to eat popcorn. Right, you can completely live your whole life without it. I don't recommend that.
No,
because it's fun.
We recommend you eat it every day.
I did see you wrote, every bag we sell is really to a child, either in years or in heart. And along those lines, I did want to ask about Payshee's Popcorn Pals.
Oh, yeah. Steve thought of this, and it was a genius idea. Yet another one.
That was the second season, too.
Yep, that was the second season. And, the first season, we realized that a lot of kids, right, they're very attracted to the bright colors and the popcorn, because who doesn't like popcorn? And we wanted to engage them on a different level and make them feel special. So he created just these little, hi, my name is so-and-so sticker, but he put a header on it that says your popcorn pal. And then I would ask them their name and I would write their name on the sticker and they got to wear it. And oh my God, did that energize not only them, but their parents were like, oh, that's the sweetest thing. Right. And from a capitalistic standpoint, they bought more popcorn, brother. They bought more popcorn. So it was a great device, and not just to make more money. It was really to engage the community because we have some serious fans who are children.
Well, it goes to, I think, one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, I believe that there's a serious power in remembering people's names.
Yes.
Right. And so we like to learn our customers' names. And we always try to have a name tag on ourselves so they learn ours. I mean, we have one little guy, man, Henry. And Henry would show up. I mean, I don't know how old he was, like 8 or 9, maybe.
Yeah, maybe 9 or 10.
Yeah, and I know the second year when we weren't there every week. I was there because I was the manager, and there were times when Payshee wasn't, and he would come around the corner with his mom and his siblings, and he was looking for Payshee's popcorn. And he would come around, and he would just, his face would drop when he saw it. He's like, popcorn lady's not here, And I was like, she'll be here next week. I was like, it'll be all right. Trust me, Henry, we'll be back. So that it's a little tiny thing.
Didn't cost us hardly any money.
I did it. I got the printable, name tag sheets or whatever, and Payshee would write their name on it and stick it on their chest, and they just thought it was the biggest deal, And then after a couple of weeks, the same kids would come by and say, "Can I have a sticker? Can I have a sticker?" Uh-huh. That also created not only a sense of community, a sense of connectedness, but fans. And some of them kids, man, you can't buy salespeople like them. I mean,
no, because they will rush out into the crowd.
Their bag and they'll go around and say, "You should get Payshee's popcorn." I mean, they'll go all the way through the market telling everybody they need to get popcorn.
Yes, they did. Can I give out free samples for you today? It works. Absolutely.
So, that's why we give out samples. It's like people are like, I don't want to give away, the product. And it's like, it's food, give it away. People want to know what it tastes like. Everyone, and this is something Greg Sweet talked about. It's like every kernel you give away is a seed for your business. And he was the master giving away samples. I mean, he would go out in front of his tent with a bag of kettle corn and just literally tell people, can't go by unless you have some, and just dump it in their hands. I mean, didn't ask, would you like a sample? He's like, never, ever ask, tell them. And so I did this at Irish Fair. Me and Momo, who was there helping us, were out there with our little sample containers. And I literally was like, have some kettle corn, and just dump it in their hands up and down not competitors, the other food vendors' lines. And it worked. People came back later and like, oh my God, a sample, that was the deal. He's like, you should just keep doing that. I was like, don't worry. We're going to keep doing it. And we gave out tons of popcorn at Irish Fair.
What's the most you've ever sold at an event?
It would be there. I mean,
we're not cottage food anymore.
Yeah. So cottage food would have been that Cinco de Mayo with the whirly pop.
Yes, the gauntlet, the stovetop gauntlet.
We sold like 119 bags of the 150 or something that we made. So it was probably around $600 or so. As cottage food, that was definitely the record.
And that was like a 6-hour event,
right? Irish Fair. Well, we popped 300 pounds of popcorn and gross around 5,000, something like that.
3 days,
30 hours.
We were exhausted at the end.
It was a marathon.
We had a team of people that helped us too.
It was a marathon that felt like a sprint. It
was an excellent learning opportunity. We did not go negative.
Yeah, we made money. Even
COVID made it harder, and so
crowds were lower.
Right, crowds were lower, but it was still an excellent event. And so, as you can see, from 2019, doing a one-day event for 6 hours, making $600 in pre-pop popcorn, to 2021, doing a 3-day event and making $5,000 in sales is a giant jump.
You said that at the beginning, Payshee asked, "Do you think it could make enough money eventually to retire on?" You're now a few years into this. What's the answer?
We're trying to make that happen right now, David. We're hoping the answer is yes.
Yes, question mark. Yeah, it probably can. Yeah, we've had lots of discussions about this recently, which is why we're laughing. What we've gotten into lately this summer, just a little bit, kind of basically getting our toes in it, is catering. Like we did popcorn for like a popcorn bar
at a bat mitzvah
for a wedding, and then one for a bat mitzvah. Mm-hmm. And we've got an actual live popping event on Tuesday coming up.
That was catered and prepaid.
Yeah, prepaid. So all you got to do is show up and pop popcorn and hand it out. And so doing that, the catering part, I think will probably be a really big part of what we do in the future.
So that plus farmers markets, plus events, and then our holiday popcorn, we're hoping will be our future paradigm and enough money for me to not have to have the corporate job and to take a few months in winter to not be in Minnesota because it's cold and snowy and rainy.
Right. Well, not so much rainy.
Icy. Sorry, that's what I meant. Cold, snowy, and icy.
Yeah.
So if you're going to big events, big fairs, I know it costs a lot of money to get into those things. But if you're making $5,000+ at an event, and when COVID, ends, then you'll probably be making more because there are going to be more people out at these events. You said you're still doing the farmers markets. Why would you still do the smaller events?
Well, it's almost no risk.
Right. And it's steady. We know how much we're going to make usually.
Yeah.
It's a range. Typically, it's anywhere from $300 to $400 a week. And for 4 hours on a Saturday, that's nice grocery money. And so if we do that in addition to some events, at least a couple of times a month, I mean, that's more steady income than a bigger event. Because, the one contingent factor, well, there's a couple of contingent factors with bigger events. Weather plays a part.
Mm-hmm.
And, COVID now has just thrown a wrench into a lot of things too. So you're not sure about attendance. But weather is probably the biggest one, because if you get rained out at a big event, you've planned for large sales. And let's say you're relying upon that for a big chunk of your annual income and you don't make it, you are going to have to supplement with some other things. And so we want to make sure that we have a nice redundancy and robustness, if you will, to our business plan, so that we have the steady Eddie gigs like a farmer's market, the catering, the holiday stuff, as well as the big events.
Right. I mean, for us, the West Side Farmers Market, it's our home. I mean, it literally feels like home when they're there.
Right. And it's so easy to make money there because people know us. They just come and buy it.
Right. It's our home base.
It's like breathing. It's easy now.
It is where we established, our existing customer base. A couple of catering gigs that we've gotten lately
are from there.
Come through referrals from people, other vendors and customers from the market.
Our recommendation would be that if you started a place like that, unless something catastrophically terrible happens where you don't ever want to go back there, to keep that, because that's a nice way to continue to reseed future flowers for your business garden, as it were. And like I said, it's just always a nice idea to have a couple of different ways to ensure that you have that money, so that if one thing fails, you have the backup.
So Steve, do you think that you would have been as successful as you have been if you had not formerly been the manager of the farmers market and seen all the vendors over the years?
No. I learned a whole lot. I mean, before I took that job, I didn't know nothing about running a farmer's market.
Or being a vendor,
really. But being there for 6 years, watching, not only other vendors, but us as we started there 3 or 4 years ago, it definitely played a huge role in learning what works and what doesn't.
I would like to just speak to this whole, when you first start as cottage food, find one of these little markets, find that little community who will help you grow your business, and collectively you'll be more powerful than you would be ever on your own. Yeah,
and collaborate with other vendors.
Yep, for sure.
We do this all the time, and we trade. Here's some popcorn. We'll trade for beignets or cookies, whatever. We have live music at the market most of the time, and almost always take a bag of popcorn down there as tip for the musicians. Like, give them some popcorn, because then they talk about it sometimes over the microphone, and it's hard to buy that kind of advertising. Yeah, and we do it occasionally. I'll just show up at the market and I'll have extra popcorn. I did this a couple of weeks ago, and I just went in there and I gave a bag to one of our key volunteers as just pass it, let everybody have some, volunteers or whoever you want. It's basically family. It's not basically. It is family. And we treat it that way, and they treat us that way.
So you wrote that the dream has evolved as many times as there have been months.
Did I write that?
That was good, honey.
That was good. I don't even remember writing that.
Do you see any end to this dream?
I guess when we're dead.
Yeah, when we're dead, it might die, unless my son wants to take it over.
Right.
We'll
I guess, it might come a point where we physically can't do it anymore down the road, but no, we'd love it. Trust me, there were times still. Friday night at Irish Fair, it was definitely way slower than what we were expecting. It was Friday the 13th, however.
It was.
I just remembered that today. I was like, well, maybe that was it. It was okay, but it was like, wow, we're really going to have to ramp it up Saturday and Sunday to make it. We were
very sad.
Depressed.
Yes.
Is a good word. That night, very dejected and down, and the same thing the next morning. And we got down there and we're already exhausted. It was just me and Paige at that point. And she was like, starting to go down the drain emotionally. I was like, you stop. He's like, because if you go down the toilet, I'm coming with you. And then we ain't going to do nothing, right? It's like, that's not going to work. So we somehow, both of us have to change our attitude.
Right. And that's a giant piece of it.
And pull ourselves out of the toilet here and get back to just get to work.
It's like the same. It was a similar moment to, oh my God, the machine died on the day before Cinco.
It was absolutely just like that.
You have to move past the hurdles, even though it's painful.
And we're like, why are we even doing this? Oh, it's never going to work.
And it turned out great.
And I was like, I don't have any control over the weather, which was hot. It was sunny, at least. I don't have control of the weather. I don't have control over how many people show up to this event. The only thing I can do is make popcorn.
And control my attitude.
And my attitude, hopefully. Theoretically, I can anyway. And then I was like, I can put popcorn in people's mouths. And so that was my goal that day. I was like, I'm going to give popcorn to every single person that comes by here if I can. And I just did it over and over and over. It was exhausting. But I had fun with it too. It was like, I'm the popcorn troll. You can't get by, whatever. You have some popcorn for breakfast or, second breakfast or whatever. And just kept doing it. And it worked. In the end, we sold popcorn. Yep. People came back. They were like, oh my God, it was so good. I have to have it back. I can control that. Find the energy somewhere. And I was, I'm an old guy. I was exhausted. My back was hurting. Everything was hurting. And I'm sweating. My sweat was sweating, I think, at one point. But you just, you kind of have to just suck it up and keep going or quit, right?
Yeah,
and
but
I'm not much of a quitter.
See, that's just it. It's like, David, you ask a good question. Do we want to keep doing this? Yes. Wholeheartedly, yes, because a bad day selling popcorn is significantly better than a great day in corporate America.
It's a fact.
And we believe it. So, yes, we will do this. And eventually it will be what sustains us until we are fully on Social Security and taking pension money. And maybe even into that. I think we want to do this as long as we can. But on the other side of it, it is a business. So you have to make time for it. You have to show up every day. You have to do your work, your due diligence. You have to pay your bills. You have to get out there and make a plan. And then you have to follow up with it. You have to get online, do the boring stuff, like figure out, your taxes and your
do spreadsheets.
You have to do spreadsheets, and you have to do your accounting and figure out your Square reader and your POS system.
And website and social media.
Right.
And this is all the stuff that I do all the time. It's a lot of stuff because when you're starting out, you're it. We can't afford to pay somebody to do all that stuff.
Right.
And it's stuff you got to do. You ain't on Facebook, you don't exist.
Yeah,
as a business. Seriously, and there's obviously mostly hate relationship with Facebook these days, but it's like Amazon. It's the big dog, man, and you can't avoid it. If you want to play on the playground, you got to play with Facebook and Instagram. At least there's lots of stuff that's got to be done, but in the end of the day, that's our job. That's what we do.
Well, it's really cool to hear how your business has grown over just a few short years. And if people want to learn more about you or find you, how can they get in touch?
Payshee'sPopcorn.com and
Facebook.
And same thing, Payshie's Popcorn on Facebook, Instagram.
Or, follow us on Instagram.
Yeah. Those are the three big ones.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the show and sharing with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks.
That wraps up another episode of the Forager Podcast. For more information about this episode, go to forager.com/podcast/44. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. A review is the best way to support the show and will help others find it as well. And finally, if you're thinking about selling your own homemade food, check out my free mini course where I walk you through the steps you need to take to get a cottage food business off the ground. To get the course, go to cottagefoodcourse.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.